What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the AstraVision show. My name is Malik.
Oh, that was short. My name is Mac.
I know, I
Key.
didn't do the whole name. And this is where you come to
Vibe
with
with
the
the
tribe.
tribe.
Yes, as I said, my name is Malik Harris. I should probably put the end. It feels weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna keep mine.
Mac.
Mac. Key.
Okay. Today we are watching Fantastic Four, Galactus, and Cosmic Entities Explained. Very important video.
Ooh.
Man Rob over at Comics Explained drops a bunch of knowledge. I've learned a lot from this man about different series and stuff like that. I like to pick up different issues or graphic novels or whatever the case is, read the main story, and then a lot of times he'll explain like the side stories and things like that, and I'm like, do I want to go and purchase that? Do I want to invest? So yeah, from that to just diving deeper into lore, doing summary videos, he does a lot of good stuff. So if you want to check out his content, definitely check it out in the description. We will be going through this more. We also talked about a couple of other people and like our Moon Knight breakdown and other characters that are in Marvel Rivals. But this video is special because tomorrow we are dropping, or
Going to watch and react to.
Yeah, I'm like, Marvel's dropping the Fantastic Four trailer, which I guess I should say today the Fantastic Four trailer is out. So this is the perfectly timed video that we figured we'd jump into it a little bit more. If you guys have watched the Eternals, if you guys have watched Loki season 2, if you want to know more about Fantastic Four, it all has to do with a lot of different cosmic entities, Beyonders, and all kinds of different things that I'm sure we're going to jump into. So that's all I got.
Let's go and watch it.
Okay, let's jump into this.
And the Fantastic Four trailer is supposed to drop later on this week, specifically on Tuesday. And so I thought it'd be interesting to sit down and kind of make a video teaching you guys about Galactus and the cosmic entities in Marvel Comics, as well as spending this week basically making you guys experts on the Fantastic Four. So one of the things that I want to specify getting into Galactus here is that there really isn't a one-shot comic that explains the full origin of Galactus and Marvel. I mean, there is, but there isn't. There's Walt Simonson's Thor with issues 168 to 170, but that's the old school origin. And a lot of things have changed over the course of Marvel Comics that have either altered that original story or have added to the circumstances surrounding Galactus's origin that really expand a lot of what was going on. So we are going to use that Thor run, but we're also going to use Adventures of the X-Men issues 4 through 12. We're going to use Al Ewing, pretty much his entire Defenders and Defenders Beyond run. And then we're going to use Ultimates Volume 2, issue number 6 by Al Ewing as well, which actually does a lot with the cosmic entities in Marvel. So pulling all these threads together, one of the first things we learn is that the events of Adventures of the X-Men issues 4 through 12 and the old Thor origin for Galactus actually happened at the exact same time. And the way this played out was that going with the old origin, Galactus was originally just a space explorer named Galen, and he was traveling the spaceways trying to figure out how it was that his universe was coming to an end, or why the universe was coming to an end. And what he ended up doing was basically encountering what was believed to be the sentience of his universe. So when the universe collapsed, that Galactus merged with that sentience and then was reborn into what is now the main Marvel universe in Marvel Comics as Galactus. But again, a lot of things have changed. So in Adventures of the X-Men issues 4 through 12, this was expanded on. And what we learned was that in addition to all that stuff that was happening with Galen, in another universe, there was a being called the Dweller in Darkness. Now, the Dweller in Darkness does still exist in Marvel Comics. He's a fear lord, basically meaning he feeds on the fears of others. Not that dissimilar from Nightmare. Most of you guys have heard of him as a Doctor Strange villain. Well, at that point in time, specifically in the 6th multiverse, as we know it, that in one of those universes, the Dweller in Darkness had realized that it could fracture something called the M'Kraan Crystal. And the M'Kraan Crystal is essentially a hallway of doors, that if you were to break it, you would essentially create a black hole in the multiverse, and it would literally start sucking everything in, which is exactly what happened. And feeding on the fears of all those people across its universe, and presumably even the multiverse, that were terrified of their impending doom, that the Dweller in Darkness started to bolster its power, and in turn, absorbing the energies of the multiverse. Now, in the universe that the Dweller in Darkness came from, that Jean Grey, the Phoenix Force, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and so on, all kind of united their minds together in order to cast off their fear and ultimately defeat the Dweller in Darkness. But the collapse of the multiverse couldn't be stopped. And so that tied into the old Thor origin and expanded on it, and essentially saying that what was happening is the multiverse was collapsing, not just Galen's universe. And when Galen merged with the sentience of the universe, What he was actually merging with was the sentience of the sixth cosmos and the fifth multiverse. I know it sounds crazy. Let's talk about
just
Al
go
Ewing's
in
Defenders
depth.
Beyond
Oh my
and
gosh.
Ultimates in order to get a better idea of this. So, winding the clock back here, long before
Before we jump into that, this is deep lore. This is great. I have some Ultimate issues as well. I think actually that Fantastic Four is Ultimate's edition, or Ultimate's comic. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff. I know for a lot of people who have never like dove into the comics, Galactus might just be a whole different character. For Marvel Rivals people, you have female Galactus, his daughter, which is like the anime version, which we thought about doing a video on that too, because I felt like that was another new character. Like Luna Snow, she's like technically not new, but also not like big and popular. They don't push her a lot. We did a video on Cloak and Dagger. We did one on Luna Snow, or did I say Luna Snow?
You did.
I did. Luna Snow, Cloak and Dagger,
And
Moon Knight.
That's it.
And then we thought about doing one on the daughter
yeah.
of Galactus, because that's another one that's like, yeah, it's very, very interesting.
And they could have also just
Yeah.
introduced her into this, into a coming up comic book series in the future. So we figured just, do a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
lore dive on that as well. If
Yeah.
there's even a lore dive at all. So.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys don't know about this character, yeah, you will. This is going to be very important for Fantastic Four tomorrow. So just hold on with us. You know what I mean? Just try to soak up the information. I know a lot of this is probably going over people's heads.
It's like having a well-made pancake, and then they just decide to cook a waffle and put it on top of that. That's just how I'm getting it. Because you already have something good, but then it's like, oh, what's this waffle doing on my pancakes? We don't know, but we're gonna eat it anyways.
Okay, we're good. All right, let's jump back in this. That's the funniest.
If you guys can't tell, I'm hungry.
before Gallon ever came
Back
onto
to
the
you,
scene, and seemingly going to the very beginnings of everything, there was only just one universe, and it was called the First Firmament. It was created presumably by the One Above All. We don't know who else would have created it, and it had full and total sentience, meaning it understood the idea of death and life and all that kind of stuff. And if for no other reason than sheer loneliness, it created its own race, children, as it called it, and it called them aspirants. Now, the aspirants were granted complete and total creative control, meaning they could travel around the First Firmament, this kind of unoccupied space in the universe, and create stars and planets and galaxies and the whole nine yards. And what they would do, because they viewed the First Firmament as essentially their god, they would take their creations and they would present it to the First Firmament, and they would ask for its approval. If the First Firmament approved of the aspirant's creation, it would continue on. If the Firmament disapproved, the aspirants would destroy it, and they would start all over again. Now, all of this was predicated on the idea that things should be eternal, that nothing should ever die and should live on forever. Marvel doesn't clarify if the First Firmament approached this from just self-preservation, because nothing ever really wants to die, or if it's because the First Firmament was just really arrogant and just believed that it shouldn't have to die. Whatever the reason was, some aspirants did not agree with this philosophy. And in fact, they actually believed that everything that lives in the universe should at some point die, because when it does, it'll be reborn as something new. In effect, growth and change. And so what these rebel aspirants did, for lack of a better word, is they cast off this monochrome black and white coloring that all the aspirants had in honor of the black and white viewpoint of the First Firmament. And these rebels, in turn, changed their physical appearance, not just in looks, but in design. They were just multifaceted and multicolored, and they started calling themselves the Celestials. Now, of course, this ultimately resulted in a holy war between the Celestials and the aspirants, and basically laid waste to all of existence, to the point that the war actually saw the physical form of the first universe shattering into an infinite number of pieces.
Okay, and this is for anyone who's like primary cinematic fan. Obviously, there's the Eternals film where they get to know the Celestials, and you have that big hand that's like coming out of the earth. So this is about the part where I feel like now it starts to coming to where the cinematic universe is. I mean, a lot of people are big Thanos people, but Thanos is like very low tier when it comes to like these higher beings. Long story short, as we go deeper into it, we were heading that way with King the Conqueror. That's the one above all that they're talking about, that you know, it's not confirmed, but they may have been the one that created these different Celestials, which is crazy to me, actually. I'm sitting here thinking back, and I'm like, I don't remember. Like, it's like when you picture him in like Loki, the season, the one above all, you never really got to a point where you get to see him in the cinematic world. You've seen him in like man form. Yeah. So it's almost like kind of, even like in the comic book, like he doesn't, with his suit and everything on, I never really pictured him as a man. I always pictured him as like an alien type thing. So it's very, I feel like it can be confusing from the cinematic universe to the comic book universe, just visually, you know, and conceptually. So long story short, this is a lot of territory that we haven't gotten into, but I think they're about to cross over into like more of that space where they wanted to go that direction with Eternals 2. Loki season 2 got to like that place, you know what I mean, with Loki taking over and all that good stuff. I'm not going to ruin that for you, those of you who haven't seen it. But yeah, now we're stepping into more of future cinematic territory.
Now, there is a little bit more that went on there during Al Ewing's Ultimates run. For example, the soul or essence of the first firmament, if you want to call it that, and the surviving aspirants actually took off to a place called the Far Shore. We don't really need to go into that because I feel like it'll overcomplicate the video.
I was gonna say,
and so what ended up happening in the aftermath of the first firmament's destruction and essentially the creation of the first universe is the Celestials, watching all of this unfold, duplicated themselves and then put a version of themselves in every single universe. And that's why there are Celestials all across the multiverse in Marvel Comics. The second thing they did is they created a race so that if a civil war ever happened between the Celestials again, and because that war would lay waste to reality, this race would have enough power to not only stop the war between the Celestials, but could actually wipe out the Celestials entirely if that war were to ever transpire. This race became known as the Beyonders. Yeah. Now, if you're a fan of Marvel Comics and you've been reading for quite some time, your mileage may vary on whether or not you like this origin of the Beyonders. And in fact, we're circle back around to them here in a little while because they become incredibly important during the collapse of the 7th version of the multiverse and the current one that Marvel has now, which is the 8th multiverse. But kind of keeping back on track here, with the creation of the second cosmos and the first multiverse, the second cosmos was like a newborn baby. Right? I mean, it was incredibly powerful and had all kinds of understanding and knowledge and everything, but the one thing that it had never experienced was death. And so almost immediately after it came into existence, it ended its own existence.
Wow.
And when I say immediate, I mean, it was millennia, right? It was like ages and ages and ages. But you know, I guess when you're the living embodiment of a multiverse, how long is time really? And so when the second multiverse died, the third one was born, and then the fourth, and then the fifth, and the sixth. And it just keeps going on and on and on and on. But one of the things that I do want to specify here is that whenever a multiverse dies and is reborn into a new one, it always carries over what came before. Not everything, but usually core elements of it. So for example, the 5th multiverse was a multiverse made of pure magic. All anybody ever did was practice magic. So when the 5th multiverse came to an end and became the 6th multiverse, magic came along with it. So in the 6th multiverse, it was all science, but you also had magic to blend with science as well. And of course, the 6th multiverse is where Galen originates. And so with the formation of the 7th multiverse, right, with the Dweller in Darkness causing the destruction of the 6th, and
that reminds me of Doctor Strange's Multiverse Madness.
Yeah.
How every single universe that he's crossed over with the Star Girl, I forgot her name. Ezreal.
America Chavez.
It was all like different.
It
was all paint. It was all different patterns. It was different. Like, and it was particularly different for a reason.
See, and those are different. Those are different universes that were all still. That's not like necessarily the same thing that he's talking about when the universe ends. It's almost like when the way I picture it, and maybe it's from like more of like a business, I guess, side, but like going from like the golden age of comics when you have that older traditional, like it's almost like they created that. And this is from my understanding. You guys correct us if we're wrong, by the way. I know there's some ultra librarian, nerds out there as well. And we're here to learn just as much as we are to try to connect dots and help out. But from what I understand, like when I look at it, I picture it like golden age of comics. As you write comics and you add a new character like Doctor Strange, he becomes like very pivotal. Then you want to incorporate him into the world, and you realize as you're creating like how much that's actually going to affect the overall process. Yeah. So when they reset the universe, almost like it's easier to picture for me for DC. When DC has its infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths or something like that, where all the Earths get destroyed. Like we just watched the cinematic, and they start everything over. They built so many new concepts within that world that when they create it, they want to use all those pieces, but they want to create something that I don't know, is affected now by whatever new addition or character that they added to. You know what I mean? So they almost like incorporate that concept or that logic into the world as the Celestials, almost being like the writers, the creators. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the way I always picture it. And then you have the different universes, multiverse, that are their own separate thing that are happening at the same time that you can like, you know, like Loki showed like that timeline and showed like the extensions and stuff like that. Yeah. Shit's crazy. Shit is crazy. Yeah. This is a lot for the brain.
That was the whole reason why I just wanted to stop it, just because it just reminded me of that movie.
Yeah. No, and it's good. Like I said, a lot of people. I mean, you read comics, I read comics, but a lot of people have only seen the cinematic universe, and I feel like Marvel has started like all these different strands of things, like the Eternals, for example, where they were gonna make a number 2, and then it was like, okay, now we're gonna put that on the shelf because it might not have done as good as we thought it was
in the box office.
Yeah, so now you just got this open string of things. Like, okay, well, what are we doing with all of this stuff? You know.
Well, they introduced the Shadow Knight at the end.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
and they had the sword, which was the Eternal Death, which Keanu Reeves, not Keanu Reeves, that Christian Bale used in Thor's Love and Rock.
Oh yeah, as Gore.
Yeah. And that was also the sword that supposedly had the essence of the symbiotes that made Venom in his race too.
Oh wait,
is that the same sword I'm talking about?
Yeah. So wait, no. So his wait, hold on.
Different. I'm thinking about 2 of the different swords.
I know. The Venom movie just came out too, and there's fucking.
Hey, don't spoil it, because I haven't seen it.
Okay. We're not gonna go down that whole rabbit hole, but long story short, they create a whole bunch of different timelines and things like that. Blade's supposed to be in here. All these things are supposed to be in, and it can get very confusing. So that's why we're gonna do more of these types of videos, things that connect to Marvel Rivals, you know, because a lot of things are going to get introduced, I would imagine, as they come out with movies like Fantastic Four. They're going to come out with the characters in the game, and everyone's going to be confused and lost. So yeah, we will be here to help aid and hopefully add a layer of fun, you know what I mean, to all this information and shit like that.
My breakfast plate just got 2 sausages on it now.
Alan being reborn as Galactus in the 7th multiverse, that we don't really know how the origin of Galactus in other universes came about once he basically emerged from his kind of cosmic egg. Because within the main Marvel universe, that's what Galactus did, right? He just sort of remained in this cosmic egg, learning to control his powers, understanding how his abilities worked. This went on for billions of years. And in fact, there was one point where a Watcher almost intervened and destroyed Galactus before he ever emerged. But that takes us into the main cosmic entities themselves. Now, I will say, we do have a video that runs through a hierarchy, right? The weakest cosmic entities to the strongest. I'll post a link to that at the end of this video.
Which is super epic because, again, people only really know up to Galactus. So when you see all the other, you know, entities above him, it's actually pretty shocking, which I'm not going to ruin that either. Maybe we'll jump into that video that he's talking about as well. If that's something you guys want to see, post in the comments, let us know. And if this deep galaxy lore is something that you guys are into, like the deep depths, let us know, because we might just go back to like individual like characters and things like that. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how we want to navigate this Marvel landscape. We do write our own comic books. We have our own connected shared universe that I've been working on for like 15 plus years. As far as, you know, we have short films in there, comic books, all the good stuff, and now we're officially like building our like official comic book universe and going to Comic Cons and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that stuff, hit the subscribe button. And all right.
Cosmic entities exist on one of 2 levels. There are the universal cosmic entities, then there's the multiversal cosmic entities. And we'll get to those guys here in a second. The universal entities are guys like Eternity and Infinity, which are 2 sides of the same coin. Between the 2 of them, they represent time and space. You've got Mistress Love, who is kind of a representation of all love that exists across the cosmos, and then you have Sire Hate. And one of the things that I hope you guys are picking up on here, especially with cosmic entities like Master Order and Lord Chaos, is that all cosmic entities exist in a kind of balance. And Galactus is no different. Galactus, as most of you guys know, travels the cosmos consuming all kinds of worlds. He prefers to consume worlds that are life-sustaining but do not have sentient life. but doesn't mind consuming a world full of sentient beings if he's hungry enough. But he is kind of a balance between eternity and the existence of the universe and Mistress Death, who represents the ending of the universe. That Galactus striking a balance between the two comes in the form of the fact that he is both a being with incredible power who can never truly die, at least under normal circumstances. There are exceptions, the Abraxas saga, different things like that, as well as the fact that even though he can't truly die, he inflicts mass death and destruction across the universe. And so again, representing both sides, the necessity of life, but also the necessity.
Well, is that the son of Hulk becoming the Herald or Galactus? That's crazy. I don't know what.
He just took the Silver Surfer's board.
Well, he's already, when he got blasted and stuff, it looked like he was already the Herald of Galactus. He's already Silver Surfer. I don't know if you guys know which comic book that is and you guys want to post that. Definitely post in the comments and let me know, because that looks crazy.
Necessity of death. But whatever the reason is, Galactus will always live on. And we know from Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run that he will survive until the very end of this universe. He'll merge with Reed Richards' son, Franklin, who is equally powerful to Galactus, and the two of them will become a new cosmic entity in whatever universe or multiverse comes after the current one, the eighth cosmos, as Marvel would call it. And so what this means is that with this kind of balance always being struck and always functioning, every universe on the cosmic level kind of has its own checks and balances system. And even with cosmic entities, while they are capable of appearing of their own volition, Eternity can just show up to you out of the blue. 9 times out of 10, they appear by way of what are called M-bodies. And M-bodies are literally manifested bodies that are created in a place called the Dimension of Manifestations. It's literally this pocket dimension that exists off in Marvel Comics. That was introduced in, I believe, the old Ron Mars Quasar comics when Greg Capullo was starting off as an artist. And the Dimension of Manifestations, being ran by Anthropomorpho, provides a physical form to cosmic entities so they can appear within the main Marvel universe itself. Now, that has not really been seen for a long time. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to believe that some cosmic manifestation of existence itself needs help appearing to people. It seems a little strange. So again, that really hasn't been a big thing in Marvel for a long time. But still, moving beyond the universal cosmic entities and into the multiversal cosmic entities.
Kind of what I was saying about with King the Conqueror too, because you see him like in Ant-Man get defeated by Ant-Man, and it kind of fucks up your whole perception of him, because you're like, if he can get defeated by a single Ant-Man, then it's
human,
nonetheless. Yeah, exactly. Then it's just almost like, that's not King the Conqueror. You know, you start to, it just changes the whole perception of the character, so it gets really tricky. And which brings me to, you know, for those of you who are like Fantastic Four fans, Franklin Richard, Reed Richard and Sue Storm's son, he's ultimate powerhouse, obviously, as they were saying. He plays with planets and reorganizes things. I just went through Secret Invasion again and saw that, or finished it for the first time, not even again, and saw that Reed. Oh, hold on, don't want to ruin this for you guys. I don't want to run too much, but you get to see Franklin in his kind of powerful form in a sense, and he has like Galactus as like a suit, almost like a pet, you know, in a sense, and you're just like, okay. And it's so weird how that dynamic. He's like riding around like a robot and shit like that. It's a whole crazy thing.
He has the capability to control a deity, entity, god.
He's that powerful. Like I said, I'm not going to ruin it, but he has the ability to like move around the universe and restructure and rebuild the universe as he kind of sees fit. So I don't know how they're going to incorporate something that powerful into the comic book universe, right? And Fantastic Four is getting ready to come out, and from what I know, he's going to be in the Fantastic Four movie. So again, it's one of those things where, yeah, the stuff's going to be mad confusing. They're going to have to figure out a way to where when they do the next Avengers movie that they nerf him or they take him out of the universe, because, you know, it's going to be...
Yeah, I was about to say, these humans in that universe, in that timeline is crazy strong. Yeah. So, I mean, just to have another human being like that, it's just a powerhouse. It's stronger than...
Yeah, it's going to be insane. And actually, I want to hear your guys' thoughts, too, on what I was just saying. And you guys have any ideas, for those of you who are, you know, familiar with Franklin Richards, like how they could possibly put him into the Fantastic Four film, and then eventually, you know, once they recreate everything, how are they going to put him into the Marvel multiverse along with your typical, let's say like Daredevil, or your typical, Defender, street level Spider-Man, all of that stuff. Like how are they going to incorporate that and make it to where
That'd be
it
weird
makes
if
sense.
they tried to do that.
Yeah, and I mean that's what they're trying to do now. I mean that's where the next phases and stuff are going, is basically getting all the different characters from Fox and getting all the characters from Avengers and all the places, the Hulk, get all those rights and everything into the same universe and then recreating the world. So it's crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. That's why I thought it was just very good to dive into this video before that trailer drops, because who knows what they're going to show. But over the course of the next year, as they build up to that, I know a lot of people are going to be scratching their heads, and that's why Rob is the man for predicting this and then dropping this video. I seen it this morning. It was out for like an hour, and I was like, oh shit, we gotta get on that. So
my breakfast plate fell to the ground. Now I got an omelet.
Fuck it. Got
better. It just got better.
This brings us into one of the really interesting concepts that Marvel has brought to us in recent years, which is the multiversal eternity. Now, for a long time, fans just kind of speculated and theorized about the idea of there being a multiversal eternity. And oftentimes, those discussions just evolved into haphazard guessing and people just making things up. But with the introduction of a tried and true multiversal eternity in Al Ewing's Ultimates, specifically when we really got to see how it all comes together, it kind of took the historical role of the Living Tribunal. And the reason why I say that, and for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with the Living Tribunal in Marvel Comics, historically speaking, the Living Tribunal was in a lot of ways believed to be the multiverse given form, that it actually derived its power from the multiverse and represented the multiverse. And even as recently as 2013 to 2015, with Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers and New Avengers, when Hank Pym saw the Living Tribunal destroyed by the Beyonders, that he referred to it as the multiverse given form. But with the idea of a multiversal eternity, what this does is it kind of steps in and it says, instead of the Living Tribunal being a physical manifestation of the multiversal eternity is the physical manifestation of the multiverse, and that the Living Tribunal just kind of continues to act as its judge. This was kind of built on in Jonathan Hickman's Gods, when he brought in the cosmic entity Oblivion, who for quite some time was just this enigmatic entity that existed out there on a multiversal level. An interpretation of its form and function was left to just kind of the things that were said in Marvel Comics, which could be taken any number of ways, and fans just sort of making these broad declarations based on headcanon. And so when Hickman came in with Gods and then took the Living Tribunal and placed it equal to Oblivion, that Hickman essentially established that yes, there are these multiversal eternities out there, right? This kind of singular being that represents the multiverse in a physical form. But the reality is that the role of the Living Tribunal is to judge and ensure the survival of the multiverse itself.
Okay, and that's again back to Loki. If you guys seen Loki season 2 or even Loki season 1, they introduced the Living Tribunal, which were the 3 people that when he walked into that one room.
Yep.
Yeah, that was supposed to be them, but then they end up saying, hey, this is not actually a Living Tribunal, because to introduce a concept like that, especially when you're trying to do it into like a TV show, now that you can see like the magnitude of how big this is, you want to introduce that into a TV show with a budget of whatever the case is. It's just a very hard feat to do, and I think that's where Marvel's kind of reaching that point now, to where it's like some of these feats are just so hard. Like how do you show some of these images? You know what I mean? It's and I think they did the same thing with at the time when they were trying to introduce Shang-Chi, and they brought in the Mandarin, but then it wasn't really the Mandarin, because it was like, I don't think people weren't ready to actually see what the Mandarin really was, you know what I mean? And then it was years and years and years later when they did Shang-Chi that they actually brought the real Mandarin in, because they're like, okay, you guys have been prepped to the concept and everything like that, and now we can dive into things. So just baby steps, baby steps.
It's just waiting for the multiverse to end. So essentially, like most cosmic entities, even those on a universal level, they represent life and death. But again, there's a lot to cover when it comes to the nature of cosmic entities in Marvel Comics. And so let me know if you guys are interested in learning more about this stuff, because there's a lot of other entities that we haven't covered. We haven't covered things like the Phoenix Force, which has a very lengthy history in Marvel, specifically when you're talking about Necrom and Theron, right? These 2 incredibly powerful people that actually introduced the Phoenix to the idea of good and evil for the very first time, essentially, and even other beings out there who are powerful enough to rival the abilities of cosmic entities, both universal and multiversal. Guys like Matthew Malloy, at least it's inferred, Clyde Wincham, the Marquis of Death, who absolutely could, Franklin Richards, who definitely rivals Galactus and certainly the Celestials. So again, let me know if you guys are interested in seeing this kind of stuff down in the comments section, and let me know anything that you're interested about learning with the Fantastic Four over the course of this week, because these videos are for you guys. So we'll just kind of roll these things into nice little packages and essentially turn it into a week-long Q&A on the Fantastic Four team. But thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all later.
Awesome. That was great. That was a great video. He went really in depth. I didn't even expect him to go that deep, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that was for people who are already reading comics, already seen a bunch of different things. And you know, when it comes to like the comic book universe, you'll have like the big event that will happen, like I said, Secret Invasion or something along that sort, and then you'll have all these side stories of what was Spider-Man doing in that time, what was this character doing in that time, that character. I'm going through the House of M right now, and I'm, you know, at first I didn't think I needed to go through the side stories, and I just focused on X-Men and Magneto and whatnot, and then I start realizing, like, damn, I'm really interested in what Spider-Man was doing now that his life has changed so much from this iteration of the universe. So I feel like people like Rob, if you guys are trying to get that deep lore, you guys already read comic books and you guys have a bunch of knowledge and you're just trying to like fill in the blinks, then that might be a channel that you want to just go to directly, check out what he has to offer, and then, you know, learn from him. But if you are coming from the cinematic universe, or I said Marvel Rivals, and you're kind of like in that middle stage of like, I kind of seen these characters and I want to get more knowledge, then this is the perfect place for you, because we're here again, like I said, to learn, fill in some of those gaps, have read a bunch of comics, have, you know, went through the entire history of all the cinematic stuff, all the animated shows. I just recently watched like the old school Spider-Man, old school X-Men, watched Ultimate Spider-Man again, you know what I mean? All these different things. So since there's so many different side stories, we all can be learning together. You know, I'd love to hear your guys' comments and get some takes from you guys as well, so that way I can, you know, perfect my craft and help me with comic book writing and stuff like that. Same as Mackie, you know, he's jumped into writing comics and stuff like that. So yeah, man, great journey ahead of us.
My breakfast plate is gone. I'm full, but I still want more.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to anything that's going to come towards our way, and you guys recommend 100%.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you.
Until next time. Then, we'll see you guys next time.
Much love. Peace.